What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So yesterday, reviews for Hogwarts Legacy did go live, and it caused quite the commotion online, especially on Twitter. And I wanted to go back, take a look at some of the reviews and the scores on Metacritic here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a Nintendo rumor that was making the rounds over the last week, specifically about a certain shadow drop, as more information has now become available. And we're also going to be talking about a service from Ubisoft that could potentially be going to Xbox and maybe even bolstering out the Game Pass value. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Activision and Call of Duty for 2023. As we know, Modern Warfare 2 released a few months ago, holiday 2022. And there's been talks and reports that there wouldn't necessarily be another full-priced annual release like usual. Instead, we may see some sort of expansion from Modern Warfare 2. However, with investors, Activision did talk about their plans for Call of Duty this year, where they say, across the Call of Duty franchise, our teams are working to amplify the success of the fourth quarter, with 2023 plans including even more engaging live services across platforms and the next full annual premium release in the Blockbuster series. Now, that has made people wonder if this could potentially be a full-priced expansion that just plays off of Modern Warfare 2, as Jason Schreier did mention last year that this would be done by Sledgehammer and not necessarily Infinity Ward. So still a lot of questions around what Activision is going to do later on this year with Call of Duty, but according to them, it's going to be a premium annual release for Call of Duty. So I'm expecting that $70 price tag, and I'll be surprised if it's lower. Also, we did get some information from Take-Two as to how Marvel's Midnight Suns did overall, which we can see here from Jason Schreier, where he says Marvel's Midnight Suns was a critical success, but a commercial flop. Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick told me in an interview this afternoon that it's possible the release window wasn't perfect, but that he thinks it could have a long tail like other Firaxis games, which this title is still supposed to be coming to the PS4 and the Xbox One, as well as the Nintendo Switch, but I think when it got out there that it was a card-based RPG, strategy RPG, kind of turned some people off from it, even though it is utilizing a very popular intellectual property in the Marvel Universe. I've played it. It was different than I was expecting, as you do have a lot of social interaction with some of these different characters in the game, and you build up kind of bonds between them and relationships. But I think the gameplay itself in battle was pretty good. Yes, it is a card-based system, but it still plays off of what Firaxis has been very good at before with XCOM. So we'll see if maybe I can get a second life with another release on last-gen consoles, or maybe even the Switch down the road. Oh, and it looks like we have another Xbox Series controller that's incoming. This was revealed over on Twitter from Bill, which you can see here. And this is their special edition Stellar Shift controller. They've done these Shift controllers before where it kind of changes color depending on the angle you're looking at it, from my understanding. This is coming out February 14th, though, as according to the listing. And I guess that means it's going to be announced any day now, probably this week ahead of the 14th. So it just seems like another controller to add to the mix. And Microsoft has been very good about releasing controllers consistently. So here's hoping now, going through 2023, starting with Hi-Fi Rush, they can start releasing games consistently to go along with it. I mean, to me, Microsoft should have a special edition controller for all their different game releases, and I think it would be a lot more fun than to see not necessarily stock or standard controllers like the Stellar Shift setup or different colors, but something a bit more customized to accompany these launches. That would actually be a lot of fun to see that for some of their big-time releases like Starfield or Redfall. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and a potential Nintendo Direct that may be announced today. I'm still thinking it's this week. Most likely it's tomorrow or Thursday, although I'm still thinking tomorrow. But there has been a rumor going around for quite a while after it was shared on Reddit that signage was appearing at different Walmarts in the back room that had Advanced Wars available now, and the street date on that signage was February 10th. So it was just going to be shadow dropped. At least that's what was being shared, and then started making the rounds very quickly. And I will admit, it's a very enticing rumor, the belief that Nintendo, after delaying Advanced Wars for nearly a year, would show up with a release date of right now. Well, Nate, who has been kind of laughing and critical of that of that rumor did just ask Walmart directly on Twitter, which you can see here, where he says, show us the Advanced Wars February 10th signage that has been claimed to be in the back room, with Walmart Canada Gaming saying, imagine printed promotional material indicating that got sent to every Walmart store and somehow no images of it appeared online. Unfortunately, the report is false. And to Nate's credit, that was some of the reasoning as to why he didn't necessarily believe it, because everyone has cell phones for the most part. You would figure that they would take a picture of it. I mean, look at the Zelda Special Edition Switch. That was more concrete because someone took a picture of it with their cell phone. So why not take a picture of the promotional material that you're looking right at that apparently says Advanced Wars is shadow dropping? So yes, I'm also thinking that this maybe is coming out a few months from now, and April makes a lot of sense for that 1 year delay. It would have been fun for them to just shadow drop it, but there is a lot that goes into the back end, especially when it comes to retailers and making sure their store shelves are stocked and ready to go all at the same time with a street date that all these companies are supposed to follow. But let's face it, they all break street date and things leak out early anyway. But I am expecting to hear about Advanced Wars in the next direct that hopefully is happening in the next 24 to 48 hours. Next up, let's talk about Hogwarts Legacy, as reviews did go live yesterday. Now, this game is coming to us from Avalanche Software, and this is one of the reasons I've been kind of skeptical about this game, specifically the overall quality and the ambitious tone and scope that they are taking with it, that made me think, okay, maybe some of the previews look really good, the videos, the screenshots, but then reviewers get it in their hands and there's some critical issue with the title itself. Because, like, for example, let's talk about some of the games that they have produced recently. That includes Disney Infinity, Disney Infinity 2.0, Cars 2, Toy Story 3, Cars 3, and then you get to Hogwarts Legacy. So they haven't done anything massive like this in the past. I think they even did 25 to Life back in the day on the PS2 and the original Xbox. But reviews came in for Hogwarts Legacy, and I believe the Metacritic score currently is sitting at about what I predicted. It's at an 85 right now. This is on the PS5 at 48 critic reviews. The split is currently at 44 positive and 4 mixed. If we look at some of the higher scores, like from V Games as an example, saying Hogwarts Legacy lives up to fans' expectations and gives us an immersive experience with its vast map full of riddles and mysteries to find. PlayStation Universe with a 95 says it's a compelling fantasy RPG packed with stunning scenery, memorable characters, and fantastic combat. Not only is it a brilliant love letter to fans of the Wizarding World, it excels as a game in its own right. IGN came in actually with a 90, where they say Hogwarts Legacy is the Harry Potter RPG I've always wanted to play. Now, if we go down to some of the mixed reviews, with the lowest being The Guardian, they say Hogwarts Legacy starts to feel like countless open world games of the past decade once you've been playing it for more than 15 hours. However, you get to ride a hippogriff. It's those magical moments and the setting that rescue it from mediocrity, but only if the Wizarding World still has you under its spell. And that's the part I'm most curious about. I'm not really into Harry Potter at all, but I was interested if this game would be a good game without me having to have the background or the knowledge of the lore itself that I'm sure for many people who are really into Harry Potter, or just that Wizarding World as they're describing it, would go in just excited in general to have a good Harry Potter game, because I have seen what was released back on things like the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2. It's been tough for fans of the Harry Potter series. So that's kind of how I'm going to approach it. I'm going to play it on the PS5. I think Sean is playing it on the Xbox Series. And I'm going to kind of go into it thinking, okay, just as someone who wants to play a good game, is this a good game on its own without having to be a fan of Harry Potter or any of that? Now, I also want to give some credit here to Avalanche, because hey, it seems like they came through. And I mentioned before on a different podcast I was on that this could be kind of a jumping off point for Avalanche to show what they are really capable of, and to be able to pull something like this off with Hogwarts Legacy, which this was the last piece of the puzzle to me, because I figured the intellectual property itself would hold up its end of the bargain to sell copies. But now you see these review scores come out and a lot of praise in terms of the game structure. I think this most likely will end up being either the best-selling game or at least in the top 3 for the entire year. Obviously, there's also a lot of talk a lot of fighting online over the game and all this, and that just continues to add on to just more exposure and publicity for the game itself. So we'll see when we start hearing about some of the sales numbers and all this, but something tells me it's going to do pretty well in terms of pulling in money for Warner Bros. And Avalanche and all these different things. But it's out later on. I think it's out today in the 72-hour early access, which, by the way, that's when the game probably could have just released in general, and they hold it back like 3 days, try to get $10 more out of everyone. Otherwise, it's out this Friday. Next up, let's talk about another release for February. This, though, being on the hardware side, and that's the PlayStation VR 2. Sony released a massive frequently asked questions page all about this device, and there's a lot of information in there. And if you're someone who is getting the headset in the next couple of weeks when it releases, you may want to at least kind of scroll through this just to make sure you get all the little pieces and bits of information. For example, one thing that I thought was kind of cool, it was with the original PlayStation VR, and that's the cinematic mode, which you can see over on the PlayStation blog, where they say you can view the PS5 system and UI and all non-VR game and media content, such as streaming apps, on a virtual cinema screen. So with the first PlayStation VR, it was kind of like sitting in a movie theater, and you would just have a square in front of you that would display a game that's not meant for VR, but you could just kind of play it, and it sort of mimicked you having your own theater to yourself. Well, in this case, it will be 1920 by 1080, HDR, and it will go up to 120 frames. So you can take advantage of the smoother gameplay, even if you don't have a high refresh TV or something at home. Just keep in mind, it won't be full 4K. It'll just be 1080p, but 120 frames for some of these titles, it's already kind of rendering at 1080p anyway to achieve that frame rate. So just another way you can experience your games. The only thing I found with the original PlayStation VR is it wasn't very comfortable for the long run to play a game for hours with a headset on, just to be looking at a virtual screen when you can just take the headset off and play it on your TV normally. But it's kind of a fun thing to check out now and then, especially if you've never experienced the 120 frame mode on your PS5. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Ubisoft Plus and how it appears to be set for release on the Xbox platform. Now, there are several reports going around currently that it's imminent for release, and as soon as I heard that, I was wondering if this would be something they would add in as an option for Game Pass Ultimate. Similar to how you can get Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play, would there be a new tier added that you can pick for Game Pass that would add in Ubisoft Plus? Now, what is Ubisoft Plus? It's their subscription service that then gives you access to a bunch of different games. Now, according to True Achievements, there is an entire list of titles that's already kind of leaked out by way of tags that were added to the Xbox storefront. And these tags essentially point it to Ubisoft Plus. So you see that combined with it being on the Xbox, you figure the service is coming over here pretty soon. But you can see some of the list here. Yeah, it's a bunch of Assassin's Creed games on there, a lot of Far Cry, of course, a lot of Ghost Recon, Rainbow Six, The Division. You think of all the typical Ubisoft games, and basically they're in there. And I think this will just work to add more value to Game Pass overall, to have a list of games like this, especially if it's something that is like an extra $5 or something on top of what you're already paying. And then you get access to all these different Ubisoft games that are time sinks on their own. Now, at the time of this recording, there's 63 games that have been found with these Ubisoft Plus tags on the Xbox, but I believe on PC, there's about 100 different games in the service, so most likely more and more would be revealed and maybe even added in down the road as we go along by Ubisoft. And they can also play around with some of their newer releases where they do trials similar to what EA Play does with some of their newer games. So something to keep an eye out here, and I'll of course let you guys know when there's an official announcement and if it does find its way into Game Pass. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're going to take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, are you picking up Hogwarts Legacy? 24% say yes, I'm getting it ASAP. 36% say yes, but probably later on sale or when I can. 41% say no, I'm not interested. So, okay, about 59% of people say they are looking into getting this game. And I have seen some estimates when it comes to sales for this title, and the low end seems to be about 10 million copies. I'm thinking more or less between 15 and 20 million. We'll find out more when we get the initial sales from the UK, and that would be the beginning of next week. But there's also the possibility that we just see Warner Brothers come out over the weekend with a sales number of like 10 million copies in the first couple of days. Very, very possible. So I can't necessarily count that one out, but something tells me this is going to be one of the bigger selling titles of the entire year. Of course, we still have to see what something like Call of Duty does towards the end of this year. Is it a digital only sold game? Is it going to be a full retail release that just has the Modern Warfare 2 logo on it? Because not many games this year are going to sell 15, 20, or even 25 million copies. But I guess we'll see after Hogwarts Legacy comes out and we get some of those initial sales reports. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Khan saying, "It's amazing how stupid these studios are. By striking it down, they're confirming the legitimacy." Well, yes, they are, but they're also sending a message to other people who maybe are spreading it around or would plan to spread around other leaks in the future. Like, I know not to show most of these leaks from some of these larger companies because they will indeed have the video pulled down. But I've learned that over time as I've seen other places get struck. And also, there's probably the thought process of the more we can limit the exposure of this, the better in general. Even if some people who saw it realize then that it is correct and is an actual thing, it won't necessarily matter if this cannot spread out even further. So again, a lot of this has to do with sending a message, but playtests and alphas and all of that does come under NDA. So they do want to have that ripped down so that other people don't go, oh, I guess we're allowed to just start sharing some of this gameplay that I've just happened to record. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, whether it's Advanced Wars Shadow Drop seemingly being debunked by Walmart Canada. When do you think Advanced Wars is finally going to release? And also, Hogwarts Legacy reviews are in. Are you picking the game up, and what do you think about some of the reviews and the Metacritic score? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.